Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Puzzled Minds podcast. Today we have with us capital letters DAVE Dave, and he was on our last episode with human adaptation. So be sure to check that one out if you haven't yet. Today's episode is brought to you by the letter C for cults. It's kind of funny that we mentioned like the topics of religion and then the transition to cults, and then sneak preview next week we're probably going to do declassified government files, and for whatever reason I feel like it kind of was like a chain of events and how they're all connected. But anyway, we'll be talking about why people join cults, and some examples of some famous and lesser famous ones. I guess kind of want to start off with what do you guys think causes people to join cults? I have a few. I think one of them, a big one, is they want to kind of like solve a problem in the world. There's a lot of problems that are in the world today, and for whatever reason, these people think that they have a solution that will help solve one of these, and then people gravitate toward them, and then it just...
You mean that the cult leaders, or do you mean people that just join already established cults?
I think more so why the people join the cults.
Oh, I think it's usually a need for like some sort of communion, like family, or fill some void they have in their life. Because typically, people that are susceptible to that, at least from my understanding, typically are missing something. Like I don't think anyone that has I don't think you have kind of like have your life together and you're like, oh, you know what I need to do? Let me just go ahead and join a cult real quick. Typically, something happens and then you're like, okay, I'm going to use this to fill a void.
Yeah, people don't seem to go out and join a cult. They seem to just get caught up in it and find themselves in it. But I think, I definitely agree where people want that sense of belonging, and they're kind of just generally dissatisfied with their lives and are looking for something more that they can't necessarily get from just themselves.
Yeah, it might be like a combination of like low self-esteem maybe, and kind of like given a purpose in life, I guess, because...
Is Scientology considered a cult?
What was it?
It's called. Is it a religion?
I mean, that's what they cover as.
I think there is a little bit of crossover between religion and cults.
Yeah, I was about to say that. I just didn't want to say it.
Yeah, I think there definitely is, but I think it depends on some people's intentions. But I mean, I feel like compliance is a big thing with cults. It's overall just kind of coercing people, manipulating people.
Yeah, you use a very good point where utter compliance is like the main consistent thing of all cults. It's, listen to me, and if you ask why, you almost get like in trouble, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of funny that you mentioned that, because there's probably be an example that we talk about that a little bit later, kind of like the Jonestown massacre and all that stuff with the compliance, but we'll kind of get to that a little bit later. But other than that, I don't really have any other reason I can think of off the top of my head of why people join it. Do you guys have anything else?
It just seems like to fill the void. That seems to be the major driving factor, I think, because that's the reason why I was asking about Scientology, because Scientology is an interesting one because it's typically associated with wealthy people, or, people that are well established in whatever respective field they're in. So it would completely go against what I just said. So I was like, well, I guess Scientology does have a structure of a cult. It's like they have essentially like what even Dave was saying, that whole rule of like complete compliance. Anyone that's spoken out against them has had some sort of retaliation. Like, is her name? What's the girl from Kings of Queens? Like she used to be.
Yeah, she was a big Scientology person, but I can't remember her name right now.
Leah Remini her.
Like she's the biggest outspoken advocate against Scientology and talking about the inner workings. Like I heard she talked about Tom Cruise one time, and I could not believe what I heard. I forgot what she was. She said that Tom Cruise essentially has the people that on his team are required to have like perfect teeth or something along those lines. Like they have to have like dental surgery. I thought it was complete horseshit. I'm like, no fucking way. But she said this with a fucking straight face. I was like, damn. Can you imagine being the guy that's like the perfect assistant for Tom Cruise? He's like, open your mouth. What? Open your fucking mouth. It's like, this guy's got yellow teeth. Get him out of my fucking face. How dare you? Crazy stuff like that. And even I mean his wife, Tom Cruise's ex-wife. Sorry, I'm going on a side tangent here, but Tom Cruise's ex-wife I think, in part of her divorce, like I guess their divorce settlement was she's not allowed to talk about anything to do with Tom Cruise's involvement in Scientology.
Oh,
yeah.
Wait. It's his ex-wife wasn't involved in
She
Scientology
wasn't.
herself.
Part of the major reason why they got divorced was because of his involvement with the Scientology. But that's as far as she's ever gone to express anything, and she was not allowed to say anything. She hasn't. The only reason why we even know Tom Cruise is part of this stuff is because of what's her name, Leah Rhymes, or not Leah Rhymes, but whatever her name is. yeah, Leah, whatever her fucking name is. But yeah, that's what I was wondering. Like, is that considered a cult and all that? So.
Yeah, I mean, I would think so because they definitely go with the dependence on like the leadership of the compliance above all else, and like that super secretiveness too. And you said that it's a lot of rich and wealthy people, and those people definitely get exploited financially. So I think that's another thing where it's a cult that exploits people more than what you would think a religion would do.
Speaking of exploiting, what about mind control as a reason for joining cults?
What do you mean mind control? Like literal, like mind control, like.
So I guess we can kind of jump in. This is kind of a little transition to some cult. So Charles Manson and the MK Ultra experiments with the mind control with the LSD and all that stuff. Do you guys know anything about that?
Oh yeah, that seemed to be more with the government though. The government was essentially the ones that had the interest in that mind control aspect. I think they thought that. I guess it's like extreme influence, being able to manipulate people on like I guess more extreme level. Because from what I understand, when they were experimenting with all these drugs, they specifically I think they targeted like college students or something like that. Like they're bringing these kids to like these warehouses or something like that. I think they're getting escorts or strippers or someone like to go in and find these college kids, like people that are in a time in their life where you're more susceptible to manipulation. Because it's hard to manipulate full-blown adults if they haven't had anything like really traumatic that leaves a void, like we were talking about before.
Yeah, so I think it was a lot of it had to do with like the hippie movement, and the CIA was, I think, trying to like squash the hippie movement. And we'll probably talk a little bit more in depth about this next week. But essentially, the CIA, and this is from the book called Chaos, written by Tom O'Neill. It's on Amazon. We're not getting paid for that, but definitely check it out because I think it's a really good book.
Hashtag not a sponsor.
Yeah, not a sponsor.
Don't check it out unless we get sponsored.
Yeah. But essentially, he's this Tom O'Neill is a guy. He's an investigative reporter, and he had spent like the last 20 years looking into the CIA involvement with Charles Manson and the infamous, Shannon Tate murder in the 60s. And it kind of started off with him essentially just being like writing one piece about the murder, and then he kind of unraveled things to the point where he spent 20 years of his life trying to piece it all together. It has like a 4.7 rating, I think, last time I checked, on Amazon with 2,000 reviews. So it's definitely, I think, something to check out. But Charles Manson was a very, what is the word I want to use? Deceptive leader.
He's a massive manipulator.
Yeah, a manipulator. That's the word I wanted to use. But the way that he was able to just gather people around, with the help of LSD and stuff like that, it was just it was a very interesting time to be alive. Not that I was alive then, but I'm just saying like that time period, I think, was a very interesting time to be alive.
Yeah, so much was going on. They say stuff's crazy now, man. Back then, there's a lot of crazy shit happening.
Yeah. And so Charles Manson wanted to start a race war, I guess, and he had used LSD to brainwash his followers as part of like a government funded study.
Yeah, it seemed like he was trying to get people. I mean, when you're under the influence, I guess, of certain substances, you're more susceptible to, I guess, accepting crazier ideas, I want to say, because LSD, shrooms, all those things are supposed to be mind expanding, like drugs.
Mm.
Like it's interesting that they were specifically using drugs. It wasn't like they're just getting people drunk, because there's certain, like, because of alcohol, it's like you may do crazy things, but it's not going to really change the way you think. And I think at the time it seemed like they were trying to find a way to be able to almost like create like sleeper agents or something along the lines, from what it sounds like, because it seems like almost like the plot of like a Jason Bourne movie, get people super, high or stoned or whatever, and then, say like two words and then activate like a government sleeper agent. But
Yeah.
the interesting thing about Manson was like he was one of the common things about cult leaders is that they're always very charismatic in a way that is like almost like a pickup artist. Like the people back in the day that like they know how to say the right things down to a science, to attract a woman or a man, whatever, right?
Or a politician, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. That's one common thing with cult leaders. You never hear about a boring ass cult leader. Like, he was all right. I kind of follow him because he seemed like a cool dude. Nah, that motherfucker is always someone that's very, like, has a way of women, or you just want to listen to the person. And Manson fit that description. If anything, he was like the cult leader archetype nowadays.
Yeah, and I think
they've got the answers,
Yeah,
Mhm.
and I think you have to be charismatic, because if you don't gather people in, then you're not really having a cult. You're just having a party with yourself. Like
Yeah.
So the one that I wanted to talk about was, I have two, but this one is more so of like, it's called the Japanese Internet Suicide Club. And
What the fuck?
yeah,
Sorry, I feel laughing at it. It's the most bold ass name I've ever heard.
yeah.
I
So
think I know where this is heading.
yeah. I for whatever reason, these dark ones are the ones that catch my attention. So I apologize in advance if this is a little too dark. So
I apologize for laughing. I feel like I'm gonna get canceled because of that.
all right, Dave. Well, you are the new host.
Co-host.
Yeah, you're the new co-host.
Talk to you guys later.
The cancel culture got him.
Yeah. Anyway, so a little background, and so suicide has been a major part of Japanese history in terms of it's called like seppuku. It's like a ritual suicide involving stabbing yourself with a sword during the ancient samurai times, and it was considered like a honorable way to die and stuff like that. And the suicide is also, you can also see that with the kamikaze attacks during World War II. So you can see that suicide was a very prominent aspect of Japanese culture. And then with the internet, combining with that and the internet, it's kind of introduced a way to people to have an outlet to connect with people who want to commit suicide. And so what happened is that the internet's allowed these like pop-up suicide clubs, looking for people that want to commit suicide with each other, and they kind of do it, in like their own home, or they jump off a cliff and stuff like that. And it's very weird because they like, I guess a lot of the pressure in Japanese culture has to do with like their work ethic. It could be attributed to that. Because they work like 80 plus extra hours on top of their regular hours, unpaid. So their productivity, I think, is really, I don't think their productivity is really good, but they work all those extra hours, and so they're always stressed. And I think that's a huge factor in terms of like this, the suicide rates. Anyway, the reason why I'm bringing that up is because I guess it gained traction fairly recently. I want to say in like the 2004-ish, and the way that they die, or the way that they commit suicide, is they inhale charcoal fumes sealed inside of a room or a car. And a lot of them, I think they've transitioned to dying of carbon monoxide poisoning from the coal stove burning and just sealing their room again with like duct tape and shit like that. So I don't know where I went with that, but I thought it was a really interesting thing, because I know that suicide in Japanese culture is a very prominent thing, but I didn't know there was actually like cults of that. Yeah.
Building more than just like a suicide pact. That's crazy.
Yeah.
And I guess it's because it's not entirely frowned upon, because like you said before, the whole seppuku thing, Sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, but it can be associated with honor because like the samurai, like that's what they did. If they failed a mission or did something dishonorable, like that was the only way for them to regain honor. So if you think about it, I mean, it's like I think it's because the connotation with it hasn't always been negative.
Mm-hmm.
American culture where suicide is never seen as something positive. Like it's absolutely not positive. It's always seen as a tragedy. But Japanese culture, it's like they're like, well, he did this, so yeah, that's why he killed himself, and they don't seem to shed a tear about it. And even that isn't there a forest in Japan famous for people committing suicide as well?
Yeah, I don't know the name of the forest off the top of my head, but from my limited understanding, I think it's just that people go to this forest, they commit suicide, and then I don't think anyone takes their bodies down. I think they just hang themselves from the trees, and then their bodies are just there until, I guess, natural processes happen, I guess.
Yeah, that's the wild thing about it, where it's just kind of just accepted, you
Yeah,
know?
it's kind of heavy, man. Shit.
Yeah, that is really crazy.
Yeah. What about you, Dave? Do you have one that you wanna talk about?
Yeah. So when we were looking at this, I didn't realize that I had been using, this kind of term, for a very long time. I had no idea where it came from, but so this guy in 1955 named Jim Jones founded the People's Temple. So it was broadcasted as a new religious sect of Christianity where people were going to follow Jim Jones to live out the true text of Jesus. But in reality, he was looking to push a heavy socialist and communist agenda. And it really attracted a lot of people who were, because he broadcasted it as a lot of racial equality and really connected with a lot of people who felt disenfranchised. People who kind of wanted answers or, just a direction, I guess. And then he also staged a bunch of fake religious healings, excuse me. So they'd roll people up in a wheelchair and he would just lay hands on them and they'd hop up and dance around.
Do you think he used energy crystals?
Yeah, man. But and then it just got crazier from there. It would be saying he would encourage people to stick with their temple family more than their actual family. So just kind of further pulling people in and making them even more connected. And then eventually they had enough money to where they could buy a giant ranch in Guyana, in South America, and they called it Jonestown. But eventually it started to unravel because people, like what happens in cults, people wanted to start to get out. And then in November of '78, when things were starting to unravel, people tried to defect and were shot on site. And as everything's coming down, it was like 918 people drank cyanide-laced Kool-Aid on Jim Jones's orders and all died. So that's where "drink the Kool-Aid" comes from.
Oh, is it really?
Wow.
Yeah, dude.
That's a dark ass origin.
When I was starting to look into cults for this, I came into that and I was like, damn, that is a lot darker than the Kool-Aid reference I've been making for the past 28 years. But
oh shit, that's what's up. Well, okay, that's not what's up, but I'm saying the meaning that makes so much sense now.
Yeah, right.
You always
use
just
mindlessly drink the Kool-Aid.
Yeah. You always associate with corporate, drinking corporate Kool-Aid, stuff like that. But
yeah, but
wow, that's crazy. So yeah, so that's actually a good point that you brought up because that kind of reinforces the notions that we were talking about in the beginning, where these people have these really positive messages. They want to run social and medical programs that help the needy, drug rehab and whatever it is.
Yeah, equality, all of that. Yeah, and then
social equality, racial equality, whatever it is, just trying to attract all these different types of people and gain a following. And so it's just crazy how it shows how important a message can be, good or bad.
Oh, for sure. And I think that's really the thing that pulls people in the most, because these people, I think the people that are attracted to cults are the people who don't really want to live their lives in a gray area. So they want that black and white answer. These cult leaders will more or less start to promise that, hey, I have the answers, come over here, come to me, and then that brings these people in. But then 90% of cult members, the ones that don't drink the Kool-Aid, end up leaving on their own accord. So I think it's like they go there wanting these answers, they keep getting strung along, ultimately get no answers, and then people will leave on their own accord.
That would be hope.
Yeah, sorry, I'm still like baffled by the drink the Kool-Aid thing. Like, it's
dude.
That's crazy. Do you have one to do?
But to be honest, mine was gonna be the Manson one.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Okay. Well, let's bring it extraterrestrial. Because I have one that is like a UFO religion, and so it's called Raelism, Raelism. So for people that want or that are listening that want to look this up, their mascot, I want to say, or their figure. You should definitely look that up on Wikipedia because it looks like a fucking like a Teletubby. Anyway, so Raelism is a UFO religion, and it was founded by this guy named Claude Vorilhon. And from here on out, I'll refer to him as like Rael, Rael. And essentially what this cult is that they think that the extraterrestrial species known as the Elohim had created humanity using these advanced technologies. And these Elohims, these people, they created 40 human hybrids in the form of prophets such as Buddha, Jesus, Muhammad, and Rael, the founder of this religion, being the fourth and final prophet. And so essentially what it is just that it argues that humanity has to find a way to use this new technology, science technology and stuff like that to create a peaceful ending. And then once that happens, Elohim will come down to earth and show them how to form a utopia.
What the fuck?
Yeah. So the weird thing is that they are physically smaller than humans, but they're like palish green and they have like some almond shaped eyes. So you just have to look up a picture to visualize.
They basically look like one of the characters from Fall Guys.
Yeah. But their values are very interesting too, because they promote like free love. They want everyone to essentially have an orgy with everyone, but they can't have any like sexual jealousy between each other. And they're not allowed to procreate.
Let's not rule out this cult, guys. They're speaking some sense right now.
Okay, well, okay. So
orgy, no jealousy? Wait a second.
Okay, well, while that all might sound very enticing, the next step or the next fact, I think you might want to hit that reverse and skirt because
pull my Uno card real quick.
Yeah, they undergo sterilization processes to ensure. That
no bueno. Me no like.
Thank you.
Yeah, so you might want to hit that skirt.
Yeah, I'm dropping the Uno card reverse. Fuck
yeah,
that would be some fine print.
Yeah, but and the funny thing that they mention is that these feminine women on Earth are only 10% as feminine as the race of the Elohim. So take that for what you think it is. But
what does it even mean, though?
So I guess they're like, they're not as much of a women, or they're not as powerful, I guess, as these like sentient beings. I don't know why they chose 10%, but I just thought it was really interesting that they just said, hey, Earth women are bitches.
Yeah, right. That's like a really, really arbitrary percentage to go after too.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's I just thought that was a really interesting thing that the UFO cults, like, I know that they have people who believe in UFOs, but I didn't know they had UFO cults, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It seems like a very odd thing to turn to a cult, seeing how there's like actual like factual basis behind, the theories that aliens exist and stuff.
Yeah.
So why would they turn into a cult?
I think it kind of goes back to the whole wanting to solve a problem like this. I think this particular one was solving peace. Like, we know that, I think it was like after the World War II bombings of Hiroshima, they said that started the downfall of the world, I guess. And that's why they were saying, we need to be able to, use the technology that we have to create a perfect society, or not a perfect society, but a better society. And once it gets to that point, then the person will kind of come down from wherever the hell they're from and then show them how to form a utopia. So it's just kind of like solving a problem.
Yeah, you're right. I think, you're right. Also, the interesting thing as well, too, do cults ever spring up during peaceful times? Like everything is going great amongst the, a society, and then all of a sudden a cult can still come out of nowhere. Doesn't it seem like it's always something bad has happened, and then people need something to believe in again, and then that's when people will take advantage of that?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Do we have any?
I don't really. You would think that there'd be a ton of cults popping up now, but I don't really.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that too.
I don't really see that.
Any COVID?
I wonder, but I wouldn't be surprised if that was the November theme of 2020 was just cults popping up left and right.
Exactly. But if you think about it, man, like honestly, like cults also as well too can evolve, because we look at it from a specific way, but we look at it from like one central figure, and then everyone's like jumping towards this guy. Like, because I think, was it like a year or two ago, the big one that happened was one of the characters from Smallville, the actress, was actually involved in a cult. And the leader was essentially this guy where he was like branding some of these women, where basically, I forgot what her name was, but she was one of the main characters in Smallville.
Allison Mack.
Allison Mack. Yeah. So she essentially was like,
okay.
She was like the right hand, I guess, gal of this cult leader, and this happened like 2 years ago. But it seems like the size cults used to get to back in the day is not really possible now, I guess, in the age of information, where I guess it's harder to manipulate us because we have access to everything. That's why you never hear about a technological cult, right? You never hear about like a cult leader being like, I want you to get on the internet and look at all this information. It's all about like starving people of information because it makes them easier to manipulate.
Yeah.
So nowadays we have access to like we have access to all this information on our cell phones, laptops, whatever you use. So it's kind of harder to manipulate the masses unless you pull them out of all that. And that's why I think that people become more susceptible to cults when something bad happens. Because like a bomb goes off in your city, it's like, you're basically going back a couple of generations where it's like, oh, we're fucked now. We need something to believe in to get us back to where we are. Then here comes Bob that used to work at Subway. It's like, I'm your leader now. And then this freaking manipulates an entire group of people.
Yeah, but so to poke a hole into that argument, can't you say that because we have the access to information so available that actually is able to spread that message even like more readily? For instance, like what about flat earthers?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, that's true. That's a very good point. Yeah, I guess I just don't see people being as blinded, because flat earthers, I mean, granted, this is just my opinion. There's no factual basis behind it. They strike me as people that are arguing for the sake of arguing, because you can hit them with legitimate facts and they're like, nope. I'm like, all right, well, that's not a conversation, right? Mm-hmm. They're not using actual factual basis to back up their claims versus like, let's say, for example, I'm trying to think of like versus like the whole Big Bang thing. Some people argue against like the Big Bang and stuff like that. It's a different way of thinking. So I think people that are in cults, they need something to believe in. It's about that belief, because the belief keeps them going. Because you find that's the reason why something like Scientology blows my mind, because you find incredibly intelligent people in it. But I do think Scientology is more based in ego. I think it's more based in the need to feel superior to your fellow man, versus looking for a community. And I think that's the biggest difference. But I think the information age is almost eradicating cults, because it's kind of hard to be that guy that's manipulating people. I think if you're the guy that, like, for example, if you like some of the cult leaders, you don't see a cult leader going to like New York City to manipulate, right? You try to go to
it's like in the Midwest or somewhere where there's not that many people.
Exactly. Go to places where there's a lack of something. Something you can exploit. It's not like, man, he's going to go to, downtown San Francisco and manipulate some tech geniuses. No, it's always, some, random.
Someone gullible.
Exactly. Some random. Not to say like people in the Midwest or wherever like.
Oh no, of course not.
Ignorant,
Yeah.
but
I'm getting fucking canceled, man. Yo, Dave,
we are. This episode is just ruining our career.
Yeah,
no, I'm just I get what you're saying. People who are, if you were in an area where there's not as many different opinions, just not that many people, where you would just say, oh, I think I could believe that. But nowadays, everyone you can check. Basically, you can check any fact you want to immediately just by going on Google on your phone. But I think that might be why we don't see as many of them anymore, because you can kind of call that bullshit on the spot a little easier.
Let me save you to do it. So it's areas that are less densely populated. Let's go with that.
Yeah, less densely populated, and when the spread of information is not as frequent as it is in other places. And I think that's the key thing, is to be a cult leader, it's also based in what are they? They're narcissists. All of them always are really into hearing the sound of their own voice. So if you're in a place where basically, you have multiple people that are just as charismatic as you're not going to be able to influence the masses because people are used to it. Usually cult leaders are kind of almost like they're charming. It's like there's usually someone that you've never met before. The way the person talks, just the way they carry themselves. When you ask the question, they always have an answer. They make you feel type of way. Go to New York, you can probably find a bunch of people in Manhattan like that. But go to like
potentially, like right around the corner.
Exactly. But go to like a fishing town in Alaska, I'm sure you can, probably get some people to believe in whatever.
So that's actually a good point, because I thought of something. So do you think people who join cults have that quote, love at first sight effect? Like they have that ability to induce that effect, cult leaders?
I think so.
And I think that also the cult leader is, they're charismatic, like you said, but I think that there are people who are inherently good at tailoring their pitch to whatever audience they're, going after.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're talking to a group of young men, you would say, oh, you can all become big, strong, powerful leaders like me, and meet a lot of women, stuff like that. And if he was talking to a crowd of women, he could use more of a sex appeal possibly. And,
And cult leaders, they can come in different shapes and forms. And that's the thing.
Sure.
I don't think anyone that's in a cult thinks they're in a cult, I always use the example of someone like Joe Rogan. Like if Joe Rogan revealed himself to be a cult leader tomorrow, I'd be like, fuck, I bought into it. Because Joe Rogan's someone that has actually influenced me. I mean, in terms of like discipline, like I probably follow down to a T certain things he's said before, where it's like talking about like motivation. It's like when I don't want to work out, it's like, nah, get up, go fucking run, pussy. Like I literally hear Joe Rogan's voice in my head, right? Like motivating me. That's influencing my actions. Or whether it's about like, like getting through tough times, and he's always talks about, like tough times never matter, all that stuff. I'm being influenced by an individual. And that's the thing I think that's the thing that we kind of have to like, I guess have more sympathy towards, is that like just because we see a cult leader and that person not able to influence us, is because their message is not tailored to us. But there's probably someone out there for every single person, most people that they could tailor a message to you. Like think about like the way celebrities are idolized, or the way Cardi B can say WAP one time in a fucking song and all of a sudden it becomes a literal vocabulary word now, right? That she's influencing masses. Maybe she's not a cult leader, but she has that ability. So now the difference between her, like someone like Cardi B, and like a cult leader, is that they're not almost weaponizing it. But I think it's just how it's packaged. And that's the scary thing about it, that anyone that is charming and knows how to influence the masses can probably become a cult leader.
Okay. So I'm gonna spout from the top. And so I need you guys to help me with this. So can we say that TV talk show hosts like Ellen can be cult leaders?
I would say the influence she has over the gay community could be considered a cult-like following, or even Lady Gaga.
Well, I guess like even just any type of gay talk show host, or any talk show host in general, like they have this following, and for the most part, their following will side with them no matter what. Like they are ride or die through thick and thin. And I guess
Yeah, I could see something like that. For like you're saying, a talk show host or a podcast host where people, tune in pretty much every day. And that's a really good point because you definitely have the blinders on for that kind of stuff because I'm like, yeah, I listen to Joe Rogan pretty regularly, but yeah, they could definitely have the potential to
be
entice that type of hardcore following. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess
but it's all about the manipulation piece, like Tadiwa was saying. If you're not trying to exploit people, if you're just kind of up there doing your thing.
Yeah. So I guess if you can poke a hole in the argument, then let's do it. But the only thing I can think of is that I don't know if people defended Ellen with like her actions, because like I don't. Do people in cults, do they defend? They defend actions, right?
I don't think it gets that far.
Beliefs, no.
You mean in terms of in general, or you mean with Ellen in particular?
I guess we'll first go with like cults in general. Like, do they defend beliefs and teachings and stuff like that? Like, I guess Scientology, they do.
Yeah, 100%.
Definitely. Yeah. And I don't think cults even let it get that far. I think that
they snip it.
Snip it in the worst way. Like you're gone.
Exactly. That's a very good point, because I think once the questions start being asked, that's the big catalyst to the seed of doubt being planted, and it spreads like wildfire.
Like the defectors in the People's Temple that when they were trying to leave, they were just shot.
Exactly. It's like, nope.
Yeah.
Because if people start thinking, why did Bob and Sally like risk their lives running away if there's not something to investigate? And I think that you made a very good point, David. It's like, it's really one of those things where you have to nip it in the bud, or they would make the other members of their cult shun that particular person.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you would, someone like Ellen, for example, I think that the reason why you can argue Ellen's not a cult leader is because she took responsibility for whatever happened. Like, I guess she didn't really say like, I'm responsible for it, but a cult leader would not own anything negative said against their beliefs or what they're saying. It's all about deflection, all about distraction. I don't think what's his name, Manson was like, yep, I messed up. I shouldn't have done this, done that. No, it's always about blaming someone else or putting a target in someone else's back. I think accepting responsibility actually kind of shows a vulnerability in a cult leader, which they're not allowed to have. They're almost supposed to be like omnipotent.
So essentially, you just like tore through my talk show host cult theory. Then
they have talk show hosts have cult leader like tendencies,
followings.
Yeah, like it's the tendencies they have, but necessarily mean, like, for example, I remember one example of Joe Rogan, right? He was talking to Bill Burr, and Bill Burr made this joke about how Joe Rogan was promoting like the importance of having vitamin D, especially during like these times of COVID, right? Mm-hmm. He literally said that he went to a store and it was off. He said like Joe Rogan said like, you can get the best vitamin D at, I don't know, like GNC or some random place, right? Bill Burr literally said he went there. Yeah, like it was all of it was, the stock was wiped. Like it was wiped completely because of one man's word. Mm-hmm. Joe Rogan literally influenced. Or when he joined Spotify and their stock shot up, or when a person has the ability to say something and millions of people follow it. Like Kylie Jenner, for example, she starts wearing an outfit and millions of people start wearing it. That is cult-like leader abilities. How you use that is what determines whether what you are or not. Like once you know that you're aware, you're able to do this, and then you start manipulating. You could say a lot of celebrities could be cult leaders if they wanted to.
Mm.
Not necessarily cult, yeah.
So it's more so of influence, and then how you use your influence dictates if you're a cult leader or not. Could you say it like that?
No, I think that's definitely right. What's the name of your boy that one
Who?
That one televangelist that tried to blow out COVID?
Shit, what is his name?
You mean Snake? Is he like that old white dude?
Yeah. Not Joel Osteen, but the other guy.
Shit, dude. It's when you ask me.
Kenneth Copeland.
Oh
yeah.
Yeah, my man Kenneth Copeland. Yo, shout out Kenneth Copeland.
Yo. Speaking of which, I mean, that's a good point, man. Mega church leaders. Let's talk about those guys. Like some of those dudes, I honestly do think.
Yeah, I don't know why we never thought of that.
Because like the thing is like, because some of them are good, some of them are bad, man. Because like I remember growing up, I used to despise this guy named Benny Hinn. My mom used to put him on TV, and I used to hate this guy because, like Dave was saying earlier, he was one of those dudes where you'd see a guy in a wheelchair rolling up, was never walking his life. He's like, man, I got paralyzed because I did a backflip off a jet and broke both my knees. And then I've never walked in my life. Rolls up, Benny Hinn would take off his jacket, recite like a prayer, smack the dude in the face of his jacket, he'd get up and be like, oh my God, my knees, they're back. And then you'd be good to go. I'm like, this is horse shit. And I was a kid and I could tell that. But the thing is, the scary thing about it is when the camera pans to the crowd, you have thousands of people buying.
Crying. Are they crying? And just
crying, falling to the ground. People just like going into, I don't know, like they're getting possessed by whatever. I don't even know what's going on. But the thing is, Benny Hinn actively knows that he is scamming these people. And there's even been like documentaries about like him paying people to come to the stage. They like all kinds of money, like questionable money stuff going on. That's cult leader behavior.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like those.
Damn, that was a great rant.
Yeah, it was. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
It's like, so it's kind of like those games that you play, like with the card games, where like they kind of draw you in to like you win a few games, and then you have that person that like initiates like or kind of forces you to like, hey, you can win a little bit more, and then when they get you in there, you like double down and they somehow beat you. What's that card game called?
You mean?
It's like 3 cards, and then you have to like find the right one, and then you win the first 2 or 3 games.
You're like the card equivalent of like a pool shark.
I guess so. Yeah, I don't even know where the fuck I'm going with this. Anyway, the reason why there's actually, so what causes people to allow them to continue the televangelism? Because is it the fact that for instance, if we use that one with the knees, you can't really prove that he wasn't healed, and so they have to believe in it.
I think usually once people get to that point, I think that example, like the healing part, usually doesn't matter because the person's already invested in whoever is speaking. It's the earlier stages is where you have to catch it. Like someone like for example, like Joel Osteen. I think most like cult people, like you could start off like Joel Osteen. Like Benny Hinn is like the end of the road, right? He probably started off like a Joel Osteen type, and then just at some point made the decision to now start using this influence for personal gain. Because Joel Osteen to me is the person that's like, he can make you feel good. That's the part where I guess, you either decide to use your quote unquote power for good or, evil. Because Joel Osteen can say some stuff and like, yo, I'm inspired. I'm about to go do what, I don't know, invest 20 grand in Robinhood now because the Holy Spirit told me to. Like, he'll make you feel good. That's a power to have. That's a gift to be able to influence people. Not everyone has that. There's some people on the street that like will say something to me and I immediately just zone out. Like they can be the nicest people. I'm like, I don't care. But Joel Osteen starts saying something about anything. I'm like, yeah, he is right. I should go buy that Kia and spend my life savings on it because that's what I need to do. And that's a gift. But when you start, I guess, taking that, and then now you start thinking more about me, how can I use this to influence these people to personally gain? That's when you get into those murky waters. That's the reason why, like, when you see like priests and like these megachurch leaders flying around in like $1.4 million jets, that's when I'm like, wait a minute. All right. Like, I know that you need to get down to, your other church session, whatever, but you need to get down in that fashion.
You can fly coach.
Yeah, you can fly coach. You can, right? You're a man of the people.
Yeah.
So
speaking of
first
coach,
class.
Yeah.
Oh, hold up. Why is Levi? You remember? Did you guys ever see that clip where Kenneth Copeland was like, "Yeah, I don't fly with I don't want to say poor people, but he was just like, yeah, I don't do that."
Did he say peasants or something? What did he say though?
Do you remember what he said, David?
I thought it was something more like, I don't fly with sinners or something like that. It was something more. Yeah. Hang on, I can check this real quick.
He tried to use that term sinner as like it's like not a classist way of saying anything, but he disguised basically a classist statement with that word. Because sinner is essentially saying
with demons.
Oh, demons, yeah.
Yeah.
But I guess demons is like a code word for like
even worse.
Yeah.
The people who are giving me money, yeah.
See, the thing is, that's the thing, man. I always think that there's a reason why, like, cult leaders always have to stem in some realm of, like, religiousness. It's never like the alien one is, even the alien one, even though it has to do with extraterrestrials, it still is based on, like, a savior. There's always, like, a model, right? There's always, like, follow me because I'm the vessel that this supreme other being is speaking through. Therefore, you should listen to me. It's like an equation for all of them. There's always some sort of, like, something that has to transcend, you know, this earthly plane. You never hear about, like, cults about just regular things, like the cult of Subway or something like that. Like, man, these foot longs are going to lead us to the promised land. It's never that. It's always something that is going to take you to another plane of existence, and the only way to get there is by listening to me. And that person always claims to be someone that's given something, some quote-unquote ability.
I think Oh, sorry. Yeah, I think that's exactly it. I think that's really where the next step in the line of mind control goes. It comes in with, you know, the deception of saying, like, you're lost. Come here. Come with these people, and then from there it goes into dependency. You need me. You need me to feel this way all the time. You need me to show you how to achieve the next thing in your life.
Yeah, that's, I mean, you're 100% right. It's always about manipulation, but it's gradual. I don't think you can get to, so, like, for example, if we were today to go to, like, I don't know, something along the lines of, like, what Benny Hinn was doing, like seeing people get, like, that are paralyzed get healed instantly, we'd call it horseshit. But let's say Benny Hinn's been working with us for like a decade. By the time you get to that point, you're already in there. That whole, like, healing thing is not even, like, the worst of it. You, along the lines of this gradually influence, you start associating everything good in your life with that person or with these followings or whatever. I think that's when people start getting converted, no matter what it is. You start you just give everything, your self-esteem, your emotional well-being, you know, everything's associated with this thing. Like, even with I keep going back to Scientology, you know, but you see these celebrities and a lot of them, like, you know, the most random celebrity I found out was a Scientologist, and it actually surprised the hell out of me. And the interesting thing was, it was the guy from Ant-Man, the Spanish dude from Ant-Man.
Oh, is he
you know, the
really?
guy that always, he's a Scientologist.
Oh shit!
But you want to hear something interesting, right? I was shocked. I'm like, how can this dude seems so cool. How the hell is this dude a Scientologist? And then I started, like, doing a little digging. And I was like, okay, he had a history of alcoholism back in the day. And he pretty much attributes his involvement with Scientology with his rehabilitation from alcoholism. And then guess what? So then all of a sudden things obviously got better once he, you know, got sober, all these things. He did that for himself. But in his head, I'm sure he attributes that to whatever he was doing with Scientologists. And then now you start associating all your success. Now, all of a sudden your movie career starts booming. It's not because you weren't working your ass off, which you were. No, it's because the church did it. The Church of Scientology gave you these opportunities. Now you start getting all these movie roles. It's like, oh man, it's because of my involvement. And then you see these incredibly intelligent people get wrapped up in something that seems incredibly idiotic. But it starts from either a place of vulnerability, or they get you while you're younger. And that's the interesting thing. Everyone seems to have a entry point. The entry point for everyone into a cult seems to be different. It's not going to be the same for me. I think we're all susceptible to being in cults. I honestly do. I think anyone that says, oh, I'll never be in a cult, it's like, no. We all could be in a cult. We just need that formula of who is the right person to speak to us, to be able to influence us, package it in a way that you start listening, and then it just slowly but surely, and then you need a belief system. What is it that, you know, can influence Dave or me or John? Like, those things. Like, I use the example of Joe Rogan because he's the only person I can think of, like, currently that I really, like, follow things he says. Like, I have people like I that are cool. Like, Robert Downey Jr. is someone that's inspirational to me because of his comeback story. But I don't care what Robert Downey Jr. does with his life. I really don't. With Joe Rogan, it's like, this dude, for whatever reason, like, I always find myself when people are saying Joe Rogan is this, Joe Rogan is that. I find myself arguing for Joe Rogan. He has no idea I exist, but I'm out here arguing for this guy. Why? I couldn't tell you. That's probably a dangerous thing, right?
Well, I mean, I started taking vitamin D, so
exactly. I started doing push-ups because of this dude. That's the beginning of it. I'm about to be in, like, a gym cult or something like that.
Shit, in a few years we're all about to be hunters and
Hunters, gatherers.
yeah, we're about to all be about barbell enthusiast or kettlebell enthusiast right after
Yeah.
this.
That's what it is. I think it's a scary thing, man, because we all like to think we can be influenced by anything, but that's the part of the human experience. Who you are today, you're pretty much a culmination of influences and experiences. Whether it's your parents raising you, like you could argue that your parents are cult leaders. They influence the hell out of who you are today.
Oh damn, that's a hot take, yo.
You have a hot take right
That's
there.
a hot take.
Mom and dad they're all cult leaders.
So I'm wondering, like, what am I part of a cult that I don't even know now? I'm like questioning everything. I'm like, fuck, man.
Dude, if you are in a cult, when you're in a cult, I don't think
You don't
any
know.
person in a cult knows.
You don't know. So shit, man. We may
Yeah.
may not be in a cult, man.
Or
You
simulation.
never know. Dude, it's a cult called life, man.
Yeah.
I'm not having a good time, bro. That's why I know it. No, it's a cult.
Yeah, damn. Yeah, that really turned the tables on me, man.
So I guess to solidify this whole conversation is that drinking the Kool-Aid is
Don't punch your mom and dad in the face is
Yeah.
what I want to say.
Oh, okay. Well, that's definitely not something that I encourage, but yeah, definitely follow the cult leader teachings of your parents, because I'm pretty sure that they know best. But I actually have an ending question, and we don't really have to discuss it here. But when we were talking about LSD earlier in the conversation, you know how LSD is supposed to open up your mind?
Yeah.
So I thought about this when I was reading it. If you believe in like spirits and stuff like that, do you think that when you do LSD, you're more susceptible to like a ghost or something attaching to you because your mind is so open now?
Ooh.
We don't have to discuss it now. We can just like leave it at that.
That is something I've always wondered about psychedelics. If, whatever you are questioning or want to see, I wonder if you will get led down that kind of path.
You'll be like shown that like that light, I guess, per se.
Yeah, like if you're if you think that aliens are real, are you gonna go see kind of aliens? If you're into ghosts, you're gonna see like ghost type of things.
It's a
Like
reflection of your deep dark thought.
Yeah, so I've always wondered that about psychedelics.
Yeah, because psychedelics are always associated with like a religious experience or spiritual, right? Because that's what they always say. It's always like, I saw my own energy coursing through the universe. It's always something that either associates with your soul or my mind. Like I can paint better when I'm, I don't tripping balls or something. It's never just like, I just had a good time. It's always something that, I guess like that's a very interesting thing. So I guess with spirits and stuff like that, one could argue if you're, more in tune with your soul by ingesting these drugs, you could be more susceptible to ingesting positive energies or negative energies, whether it's demons or, I don't know,
angels or
whatever.
Or cult leaders, yeah.
Yeah, cult leaders, yeah. That's the reason why they want you fucked up,
that's
right?
what it is.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
The reason why they don't want you just regular. Yeah, they don't want you just like, they want you fucked up. They don't want you just to do that. Everything's going great. It's like, hey, by the way, would you want to follow me forever and give me all access to your financial situation? No. Okay, here, smoke this blunt.
But what if you were on LSD? Yeah.
Yeah, what if you, just took this heroin real quick, bro?
Yes, I think that we'll end it there with the heroin part. So,
all right, man.
So if you like these type of conversations where we go from cults to heroin use, smash that like button, that follow button, wherever you do follow us. Follow us on our social media. Instagram is Puzzled Minds Podcast. Twitter is Puzzled Minds Pod, and our email is puzzledmindspodcast@gmail.com, where we do encourage everyone to submit a topic, such as like heroin use, whatever. Last but not least, thank you again at Official Block of the Week for the weekly episode cover arts. Other than that, everyone stay puzzled. Also, I'll see you soon, David. We haven't ended yet, but see you soon.
All right, man. See you soon.